SDC Enterprises is the name specified worldwide for premium quality test consumables. Manufactured in accordance with BS, EN and ISO standards, SDC's comprehensive range of products for color fastness, physical testing, and light fastness tests help to guarantee the quality of your textiles time and time again. You are now ready to assess your results using a light box such as those supplied by color measurement specialist verified or other approved manufacturers. The cabinet to use and the conditions under which to carry out the assessment are outlined in the relevant standard. Within ISO A01, certain conditions are specified with regards to lighting, reflection, and the angle of orientation, which will allow for consistent, repeatable grades. Grading cabinets can vary, but the illumination specified in ISO A01 is D65. This is artificial daylight. Alternative light sources are offered, such as TL84, simulated store lighting, in line with varying requirements, so refer to the relevant methodology before commencing your assessment. The inside of the cabinet is coated in a paint which offers a specific shade of matte. The viewing table is set at a certain angle, which is designed to standardize and limit light reflectance. There are two types of grayscale: A02 for the assessment of change in color fastness of the specified sample, and A03 to assess the staining of adjacent materials. First, we will focus on A02, change in color. Grayscale tiles are highly specified in line with extensive quality control measurement for continuity and accuracy with every test, comparing a constant grey with a degree of loss or fade. Samples should be mounted for ease of assessment. Pay attention to whether the face or reverse of the fabric is being assessed and also the orientation of the fabric. The warp and weft directions should be aligned with those of the original piece of material, because light will reflect differently depending on the orientation. The original piece of test fabric should be placed alongside the mounted sample with no gap. SDC grayscales are supplied with an assessment mask to mask out the area of comparison. The most important factor in assessment is that we are comparing areas of equal size. We are looking for a contrast in the depth of shade between the original material and the test sample. Your eyes should be the distance from the sample that is specified within the relevant methodology. When the area has been masked off, slide the grayscale through its grades until you find the level of contrast which is most comparable. Remember that the grayscale should be placed below the fabric to avoid any shadows which may affect the result. Hands should also be free of any nail polish or jewellery that may affect reflectance. Grades progress from 1 to 5 for each scale, measuring against a constant grey for a fade result. 1, the poorest result, indicates a stark contrast, while the best result of 5 indicates two identical grey tiles with no perceptible change in shade. Assessment for staining measures the transfer of colour from the original sample onto adjacent fabrics. While technicians can assess staining onto one single substrate, SDC's multi-fiber DW allows for quick and efficient testing of staining onto 6 different components simultaneously. SDC's multi-fiber DW comprises acetate, cotton, nylon, polyester, acrylic, and wool in one easy-to-use strip. Multi-fiber DW is available in rolls of 10 and 50 meters and pre-cut pieces, all manufactured to the standards specified by the ISO 105 C series and E series of color fastness tests. Testing professionals should always ensure SDC's multi-fiber DW features our unique security thread alongside the wool component of the thread to guarantee the authenticity of the product. To assess staining, take a piece of SDC's multi-fiber DW. This should have undergone the same procedure, such as the laundering process, as the piece of multi-fiber being used to assess staining. This removes any potential variables, such as the effect of detergent on the multi-fiber DW, to guarantee a fair test. Place the multi-fiber DW alongside the stained sample of multi-fiber DW, again ensuring that there are no gaps between the two fabrics. In line with the same principle as assessing change in color, it's essential to mask off an area of the same size for consistent and efficient assessment. For assessing staining, the landscape window of the grayscale mask is used to section off areas of equal size for comparison. Place the grayscale for assessing staining underneath the sample area and slide through the scales until you find the one which best represents the change in shade. Grades progress from 1 to 5 for each scale, measuring the uptake of color onto the adjacent components against the ecru of the unstained piece of multi-fiber DEW. 1, the poorest result, indicates a stark contrast, while the best result of 5 indicates 2 sample areas of an identical ecru with no perceptible change in shade. Each component can be assessed separately, although you may not have to record results for all 6 components depending on the specifications of the test method being carried out. Retailers and manufacturers can stipulate an acceptance level of color change. For example, only fabrics with a color fastness result of 3 to 4 may be considered acceptable by some high street retailers prior to manufacture. SDCE grayscales are essential tools in the visual assessment of color fastness. Technicians should have good eyesight and ensure that they take sufficient breaks between assessment to avoid lapses in concentration. To remove subjectivity, specialized equipment such as a verified DigiEye machine can also be used to assess change in color or to assess staining. Professionals who are interested in comparing their own visual assessment with that of automated assessment can participate